So great, everyone. Again, welcome. I'm Lama Rod. Many of you know me. I'm really, um, I feel very honored to be here tonight to share the teachings around Medicine Buddha. Not just the teachings, but some practice for Medicine Buddha. A special thanks to Natural Dharma Fellowship for hosting us and for doing the work to bring teachings online tonight. And a really special shout out to like everyone in many spiritual communities who are really working hard to bring teachings and everything online so that we can also have access to the things that we need to be well right now. I just got off of pilgrimage, actually. I was in India for about 2 weeks. I just got back on Sunday. And so I'm still feeling that energy of pilgrimage. And for me, the energy of pilgrimage is about an expression of devotion and openness. And, devotion is really an expression of vulnerability. So it's this expression of like opening and leaning into this kind of, this kind of love, this kind of trust for something that I initially perceive as being outside of myself, but ultimately it is the devotion or trust in something that is an expression of who I am. So, so devotion is this kind of practice of leaning to a relationship to actually who and what we are, right? And so when we come into relationship with the deity, we're actually coming into relationship with ourselves. And the practice of deities and deity worship or deity practice is a skillful means to work with parts of ourselves that remain deeply covered and deeply erased or invisible normally to us. So when we come into practices or come into relationship with practices like Medicine Buddha or Tara or Kali or any number of deities, we're really coming into contact with an expression of who and what we are, which is kind of can be quite challenging for us because some of us really walk around with this kind of feeling that we're just shit and that we don't deserve the things that we need, and we don't deserve love, we don't deserve care, and our needs are secondary. And when we begin an authentic deity practice, those attitudes, those beliefs actually begin to become disrupted. And that can actually feel very painful, actually. And so that pain is basically an expression of the ways in which we don't feel loved and cared for, or the ways in which we interrupt receiving and deeply embodying care and love and compassion for ourselves. So I think, these are some of the things I think that these are some of the things that really come up for us over and over again in our daily lives and our practice. And I think these are some of the things that Medicine Buddha and the practice of Medicine Buddha is really useful for working with. So tonight, I wanted to just give a little introduction to the tradition of Medicine Buddha, to the practice of Medicine Buddha. I wanted to also offer a practice around Medicine Buddha, which is a guided meditation practice that is which is a kind of a conversation or a mingling of different aspects of tantric practice, not just Tibetan tantric practice, but also Hindu tantric practice as well. So kind of mingling some of these things together. And then once we get through that practice, have some space for questions and so forth. So to begin with, before I, talk any more about Medicine Buddha, I just really invite you to just take a moment, just a couple of moments to check in with yourself. And in this check-in, I just really want you to ask yourself how you're doing. Like, how are you doing? What's going on? What's up? And as you ask this question, and as you, allow the space to open up around that question, you're actually entering into this sacred space of Medicine Buddha. This sacred space of Medicine Buddha is the space of working to care for ourselves, making the choices, making the decisions to turn our attention towards what is uncomfortable, to what is out of balance. We turn our attention to what's happening for us. And we notice. And as you're noticing how you're doing, I also wonder if you can just relax around what you're noticing. So this really basic practice is the summoning of Medicine Buddha. The ways in which we're relaxing, opening up, where the ways in which we're offering space to some of the most difficult things that we're experiencing, that offering of space is the summoning of Medicine Buddha into our experience. Another way of saying that, this is the work that we're doing to turn into our innate capacity and ability to care for ourselves, to heal ourselves. And there's so much happening right now. There's so much with with the coronavirus, with work, with kids, with all the other problems that we had before this. There's so many things happening. And I see so many people in the world just fighting, pushing away, avoiding the pain, avoiding the discomfort, avoiding the heartache, avoiding the hopelessness, avoiding the confusion, avoiding the despair, avoiding the anxiety and fear and terror. And at some point, we have to allow our hearts to break. And as our hearts break open, the deity can emerge. And the deity meaning our true selves, our Buddha nature, or the true essence, the true essence of our minds, ultimate reality, all of that emerges. The mother emerges, God emerges. And none of this is supposed to feel good. None of this is supposed to feel comfortable. It's not supposed to be a parade or a picnic in the park or a day, you know, at the spa. It's not supposed to be that. It's just supposed to be real and honest and direct. And when these experiences are real and honest, when we're able just to show up to it and to hold the space to be with the discomfort and everything that we just want to run away from, but when we're able just to show up to everything, we begin to learn to see, to kind of delve into the true nature, the real essence of these things that we habitually avoid. And then eventually we begin to see, that, this isn't what I thought it was. When I'm able to relax around my anxiety, when I offer my anxiety space, when I'm able to kind of lean into it and to use the practice of insight to kind of pierce into the nature of these things, I begin to see, oh, this isn't what I thought it was. And when we get into the essence of these things, we really enter into this quality of tantric practice that's really dynamic, that's really like kind of edgy, that's really risky, that we enter into this thing that we've been told to always avoid, but we're going into the nature of these things, and the one wrong step, one wrong move can actually, you know, be really negatively impactful for us. But we can hold steady by just opening, relaxing, offering space. And in my practice, I hold steady by also trusting myself, trusting that I will be okay, trusting that I can survive the leaning into what I just want to run away from. All the shit that I can't stand, all the shit that scares the crap out of me. I have an innate trust in myself that if I can just lean into it and open and relax, I can survive the work of moving through these things. And as I move through these things, my heart opens up, my wisdom deepens, my patience increases. And I begin to understand these really basic, fundamental expressions of life and living and practice and death. Really, all of these things that many, many, many spiritual leaders and teachers have taught us for thousands of years, including the Buddha, including Muhammad, including the Christ, including all these teachers, including my teachers. But we have to see our broken hearts as a deep, kind expression of the Guru, of the deity. We have to see it as necessary in order to eventually get free. So let's slowly, slowly come out of this initial reflection. This initial reflection that I had no intention of doing. But the thing is, when you start working with these energies, and you start working with deities, and you start working with the mother, and these different expressions of energy, you just kind of get swept along. You know? Particularly when you're working with the energy of the mother, of the divine feminine completely disrupts hegemony, it completely disrupts rigidity, it disrupts a plan, it disrupts any outline that you've put together, any outline that you think you're going to do, it completely disrupts that. And that energy begins to reorient ourselves towards the expression of fluidity, fluidity without bounds. I was just last week, just sitting and spending time on the Ganges, in Varanasi. And the Ganges is the expression of the Mother Ganga, and the Mother Ganga, the Ganges, the sacred river that came from the God's realm down to earth, and Mother Ganga, was the mother who brought the Ganga, the Ganges down. But you sit on that river and you lean into that intense force, that's nothing but the expression of this divine feminine energy that sweeps us, that moves us, that carries us through all of these obstacles, through all of these fixed ideas of what we think life is. It just moves us. That water energy, that water element moves us. That water element is the expression of the mother. It moves us. But just briefly, I want to get into practice in a couple of minutes with Medicine Buddha. So I wanted just to kind of flash this book here before I continue. This, the Medicine Buddha teachings, this is from Trungpa Rinpoche, who is one of my teachers, one of the main scholars of the Kagyu school of Tibetan Buddhism. And if you're really interested in learning more, about this particular practice. This is a really good introductory practice for the work of Medicine Buddha. I've been working with Medicine Buddha, since the beginning of my practice, almost 20 years or so. And, for me, early on, Medicine Buddha, for me, represented this expression of a deep wish and aspiration to be healed, to be free from sickness, to be free from all the causes and conditions of sickness and suffering. But as I deepened my practice with Medicine Buddha, I began to understand that Medicine Buddha and the practice and the cult of Medicine Buddha is really about equity. It's really about justice. It's really about addressing all the conditions within a system, within a society that creates sickness and suffering and illness, So, if you're malnourished, if you're not getting enough to eat because you're in a system where you actually can't get the food and the nourishment that you need, then that falls into the realm of Medicine Buddha. That's something that the aspiration of Medicine Buddha actually emerges to remove, to remove the obstacles that keep us from getting the food that we need. It removes the obstacles that keeps us from getting the medicine that we need. It removes the obstacles that keeps us from being in relationships that are nourishing and that are restorative. So it's not just about us practicing Medicine Buddha to feel good. It's about us practicing Medicine Buddha to become aware of all the obstacles in our life that actually prevent our experiences of wellness, of connection, and balance. The mythology around Medicine Buddha, as you can see actually from this cover, too, this is just that image, it's just of a man, but the mythology of Medicine Buddha is that he was an actual human like we are, human, or some of us are human, whatever. And over a series of many lifetimes, he began to develop this aspiration to free beings from suffering. And these aspirations began to be more specifically geared around wellness and access to healing and access to medicine and food and so forth. Those aspirations within the mythology are called the 12 aspirations of Medicine Buddha. And this is something that I resonate really strongly with because I was born, like many of you perhaps, were born with these kind of innate, natural kind of like tendencies, these like, we can call them aspirations, but for me, I have very, very early memories of wanting to help people, I think a lot of kids do experience that, but I was really, really like invested in trying to help, trying to do what I could to be a benefit to people around me. And, it helped me, as I came into serious practice around deities, it really helped me to understand that, like, I think, it is really, it's like, I think it is true that we carry aspirations from life to life, and I think that we have the ability to reconnect to very strong aspirations that we've made in past lives. And I think that's about karma, which is about action. It's also about merit, and merit means virtue, and how there's an interplay between karma and virtue that actually helps set the conditions for us to be reintroduced to certain aspects of who and what we are from life to life. And that's a part of the Medicine Buddha mythology that I think I, really, really resonate with. So eventually this person, achieved enlightenment and emanated as this, Medicine Buddha. And I will actually show a picture of the Medicine Buddha now. Um, and if we can get the screen sharing set up again, I can share that image. Okay. Okay. So if you look at your screen now, there's a picture of Medicine Buddha there. So after many lifetimes, this person, this being, began to emanate as the Medicine Buddha. Now, the mythology around this, you know, if we begin to look at particularly Tibetan Tantric kind of theories, is that when we achieve enlightenment, we have the capacity to emanate into this realm in a way that will best benefit beings. You know, there are different bodies that we can emanate in. We have Sambhogakaya, we have Nirmanakaya, we have Dharmakaya. The image that you see in front of you, and like many images, and I also have Medicine Buddha here right beside me as well. This is my personal tanka of Medicine Buddha that I keep in my room. You know, so the images that you see of deities like this within Tibetan Buddhism are what we call Sambhogakaya Buddhas. So these are energy manifestations, you know, the energy bodies, you know, so these are the bright, colorful, you don't see this in the images, but in the practices, these Buddhas are translucent. They're not tangible. They're not these heavy things that we can touch. They're just actually reflections. So they're energy, you know, they're energy that has been formed in such a way that we can relate to it, we can see it. We can look at images like this and we can experience what is the ways in which we gaze upon sacred images and the ways in which these images gaze back. But it's not necessarily the image that's gazing back, but it's our belief that the deity actually occupies this image. And so when we gaze upon these images, we're actually saying, oh, the deity is present within this image, and therefore the deity is gazing back to me, towards me, through this image. And that's sacred, as we call it, you know, darshan is called sacred view or sacred glance. And darshan is something that I'll talk about in later teachings on different platforms as well. So that's the work of the Medicine Buddha. And so when we, you know, begin to work with Medicine Buddha, you know, the tradition of round Medicine Buddha is that, in fact, yes, one aspect of Medicine Buddha is that we practice Medicine Buddha to feel well, you know, to kind of help ways in which we're feeling unwell, disease, sickness. Traditionally, you know, in Tibetan culture, you know, we're practicing medicine Buddha. You know, when we're sick, we're practicing on behalf of ourselves. We're practicing on behalf of others around us. And this is why I think Medicine Buddha is so important right now as we are living through a pandemic, that we begin to arm ourselves in a way with practices that can be a benefit for ourselves and for others. And, you know, one way to understand the benefit of Medicine Buddha is that Medicine Buddha, like any other deity practice, actually connects us to what we would say call our true natures, our Buddha natures, right? And as we develop a relationship to who and what we are, there are ways in which karma is purified. There are ways in which we are actually able to be freed from certain mental formations that actually perpetuate certain kinds of illness and sickness. And this is not, again, not just physical sickness or illness, but it's also mental illness as well. It's also the illness, the sickness, the suffering of societies, of systems, of institutions as well. This is about learning how to bring balance to imbalance through working with the deity, which is also a way in which we begin to work with energy inside of us and around us as well. So just briefly looking at the image, there's so many different images of deities, and the same goes for Medicine Buddha as well. And there are just a few basic things, symbols within the iconography of Medicine Buddha, which I can just point out. So you see that he's holding a bowl, and you can see in this image, so he's holding the bowl in his left hand, and in his right hand is extended, almost in the Bhumi Sparsha. Actually, in the generosity mudra, which is an open palm like this, you can see a plant kind of like emerging around his thumb, and is going up. And both the bowl and the plant both represent substances that can be used as medicine and as healing. So we call it like amrita in some cases, but these represent things that can actually make us well instantly. Of course, he has the monk's robes on. He's blue in color, and blue in color represents the Dharmakaya, represents the nature of mind, or emptiness itself. Surrounded by flowers, he's on a moon seat, and a lotus seat as well. And there's so many, Tibetan iconography is just a code. And you can unlock that code just by studying the different aspects of the colors, of the positionalities of the deities, how they're sitting, what they're wearing, the colors around them, the aura, the sky above them, what's located around them on the ground. All those have specific meanings that can help in a meditation practice. But we're not going to get into all of that tonight. That's a whole field of study that takes many years to work with. So let's transition into doing, just a really basic practice with Medicine Buddha. I say basic, and maybe complicated. Who knows? And so, when I began to learn Medicine Buddha, from my teachers, it was in the form of a formal written sadhana. And the sadhana on the Tibetan tantric side is a formal written practice. It's a formula, actually, that you go through. It's pretty much the same for many deities. There are different components to every sadhana. And on the Hindu tantric side, sadhanas tend to be a little more simple. But, Tibetan Buddhism, we love to complicate everything. So if it's going to be complicated, we're going to do it. But tonight, I want to kind of fall somewhere in the middle with this practice. Just offering a guided meditation that you can actually take out of this session with you as something simple that you can use. And really the heart of this practice is developing the confidence in the deity. Actually, the particular phrase is the pride of the deity. The pride of the deity. And you say, oh, pride is really bad. But in this case, sacred pride means that I develop this faith that I am the deity, that I am Medicine Buddha, that I am Tara, and so forth and so on. That confidence actually helps me to elevate into a different way of being. It helps me to kind of let go of silliness and kind of take on the qualities and the characteristics of what it means to be realized or enlightened, or as the young folks are saying, woke. you know. But, back, in my teens, we called it conscious, to be conscious, to be, you know, um, but we develop a pride that like we're actually not the bullshit that we perpetuate every day, that we're actually something more than that, and this is something I think many of us desperately need, is to believe that we're better than the messiness and the drama that we perpetuate. Although it is very fun sometimes to be petty and messy, but sometimes we have to scale it back a little bit. All of us can't be real housewives of Atlanta, right? Some of us just have to be ourselves, normal, basic, ordinary, and which is wonderful, you know. But sometimes we have to take on the pride of the deity to get us to fall back into making better choices, making better decisions, being kinder, being more compassionate, whatever it may be, you know. The added benefit of working with Medicine Buddha and kind of scaling back some of this trauma is that we actually began to get more oriented towards ways that we can strengthen our self-care, our self-preservation, the ways in which we can take care of ourselves in a way that doesn't take, necessarily things from other people, but ways that we can just naturally begin to care for ourselves. Because I think for me, Medicine Buddha helps me to understand that I can't be a benefit to the world unless I first make the decisions to take care of myself. At the end of the practice, we're going to do a prayer together, a Shantideva prayer, which I think really beautifully kind of embodies this idea of how do we make an aspiration to care for other people by first understanding how to take care of ourselves. So, having said that, we'll just move into this kind of short practice. So I just really, really invite you just allow yourself to come into a position that feels appropriate for you, that feels comfortable. Um, I hate to use the word comfortable because our bodies are very different, and so for some of us, it's very difficult for us to find a position of comfort. But rather, I think it's much more doable to find a position that is okay for us, that a position that we can manage um, during a formal practice. Some of us will not be pain-free, but we can work to find ourselves in positions that we can manage discomfort as best as we can in the practice. So I invite you to find a position that's comfortable. You can lie down, you can stand up, you can sit in the chair, whatever feels right for you, whatever feels appropriate. That's the first kindness to ourselves. That's having pride. That's the pride of the deity when I give myself agency to be really natural, and to be in a position that suits me, that helps me. Now, as we move into the practice, I invite you to just first um, giving rise to this experience of gratitude for something. What are you grateful for today? It's so easy to kind of fixate on all the shit that we're struggling with right now. But what are the things that you're grateful for? What's something that's really working out for you? You know, some people say, what's the silver lining? You know, these dark clouds. What's the silver lining for you right now? When you notice that, when you find that gratitude, I want you to just offer it space. I want you to notice where that gratitude is being generated from. And I invite you just to step into that energy of gratitude and rest. You know, these are ways in which we begin to invite ourselves into a relationship with the deity. Gratitude can open up a tremendous amount of space, just like compassion, just like kindness, just like patience. I think gratitude, the energy of gratitude is imperative for us right now. And take refuge in that gratitude. What I mean by taking refuge is that I just want you to sit and rest within this energy of gratitude. Don't think about tomorrow. Don't think about tonight. Don't think about last week. Don't think about anything but just opening our minds, resting with this gratitude, and just being here in this moment. You don't have to be in your body if your body feels unsafe. You know, if your body feels unsafe, turn your attention to something else. And if you can, I invite you to turn your attention to the base of your spine. And I invite you to imagine that you're breathing up and down the spine. And you can do that by imagining that as you inhale, that you're inhaling down the spine. And as you exhale, imagine that you're breathing up the spine to the very top of the head. And use the breath to kind of notice all the different vertebrae as you move up the spine, you know, and using that breath, the in breath and the out breath, just to notice these different sensations of movement up and down the spine. And so our spines run parallel to our central channels within our energy bodies. So as we're breathing up and down the spine, we're also moving prana, the life force energy, up and down the central channel. And that has a really direct impact on our central nervous system. It can actually calm us down. It can actually help us to feel more grounded, more at ease. And when we're breathing down the spine, down the central channel, we go down to the base of the spine. The base of the spine connects us to the earth. And so that earth can actually become an element that can ground us even more as we're breathing up and down the spine, up and down the central channel, moving breath, moving prana. When we bring attention and intention, so when we bring attention and intention to our breath, then we naturally begin to move prana, a life force energy. And when we begin to kind of concentrate and evoke love and care and compassion in this breath, we actually begin to unlock the energy of Kundalini also within the base of the spine. Kundalini is an expression of Shakti, expression of the divine feminine energy in the universe. And these are just all skillful ways that we begin to open the door into the experience of the deity. And now I invite you to bring your attention again down into the base of the spine. And in the base of the spine, I invite you to imagine that a ball of white light, maybe the size of a pearl, begins to form. This little pearl of white light begins to form in the base of the spine. And imagine that you begin to breathe in and out of that pearl of light. And slowly, I invite you to imagine that that pearl of light begins to slowly rise up the spine. You keep imagining that the pearl of light is slowly lifting up the base of the spine, is also lifting up simultaneously within the central channel. Just slowly coming up, lifting and lifting, up and up. And slowly begin to imagine that that pearl of light begins to stop and rest just right below the surface of the head, the very top of your skull. And now taking a deep inhale, and then as you exhale, imagining that that ball of light, that pearl of light begins to slowly rise out the top of the head. And imagine that it begins to stop maybe a foot above your head. And just imagine that it just kind of floats there. And imagine that within this pearl of white light just above your head, imagine that like all of your compassion, love, kindness, care begin to be concentrated within this pearl of light. That this pearl of light above your head is an expression of your deepest, deepest care, your deepest, deepest compassion or wish for beings to be free from suffering, your deepest love, which is the wish for beings to be happy. That this pearl of light is the concentration, is the deepest expression of these qualities for you. And from this pearl of white light above your head, imagine a flash and a wave of bright white light explodes from this pearl of light, and it flashes throughout the whole world. And this flash of light from this deeply concentrated sense of compassion and care begins to purify the whole world of illness, of sickness, of disease, of violence, of all the drama, the microaggressions, the inequality, the injustice. Imagine that this flash of light purifies the whole world around us. That all beings are free from suffering. All beings are free from hunger. All beings are free from financial instability. All beings are free from fear. All beings are free from despair. Everyone we love, our family, our friends, our lovers, our mentors and teachers, everyone's free from suffering and illness. Turning our minds back to this pearl of light just above our heads. Again, imagining that this pearl of light is the deepest concentration and expression of all of our care, compassion, and love. Imagine that it becomes so concentrated that slowly that ball of light begins to transform slowly into Medicine Buddha. And slowly, Medicine Buddha begins to form from this pearl of light, this pearl of deeply concentrated compassion, love, and care that begins to form from these deep qualities that are expressions of ourselves. And slowly you begin to see Medicine Buddha above your head. You can see Medicine Buddha, or you can have a deep kind of impression or belief that Medicine Buddha is present above your head. Imagine that he is blue, the color of lapis lazuli, and his Dharma robes, gold, red, and his left hand holding a bowl full of nectar that can cleanse any being of suffering and illness. In his right hand, a plant which can actually cleanse all the illness of any being. He's sitting on a moon seat, which is being held by a lotus. Again, imagining that his body, his essence, is filled with a deep, deep, deep expression of compassion for all beings, a deep sense of love and care and kindness for all beings. But especially this care and kindness and compassion and love is for you. So feeling that energy from Medicine Buddha above you. And imagine that this deep energy of care, compassion, and love begins to express itself as a nectar, this pure white nectar that begins to fill his body. And that nectar begins to slowly, in a stream, flow down from the bottom of his lotus seat. And it strikes the top of your head. And as it strikes the top of your head, that energy of the chakra, the seventh chakra, begins to be purified and cleansed. You begin to experience a deeper connection to the divine, a deeper connection to the expression of your own wisdom mind, a deeper expression to God, a deeper connection to the mother. Our connection to what is divine and sacred is cleansed and purified through the nectar of Medicine Buddha. Now imagine that nectar from Medicine Buddha begins to sink down into the body and begins to collect in our third eye. Imagine that our third eye begins to be cleansed and purified, and our wisdom deepens, our insight deepens. We're much more in tune to what is virtuous and restorative and balancing. We're much more able to see what is conducive for our enlightenment. Instead of getting lost in all the stupidity and pettiness that keeps us lost from who we are. And imagine that that nectar now sinks down into our throats, our throat chakra, and our speech is cleansed. Our speech becomes clear and precise. Our speech becomes honest and open. We begin to express our emotional realities, our mental health. We begin to be honest with ourselves and with others. We use our speech to create, not to destroy. Now imagine that nectar of medicine Buddha moves down even deeper into the body and begins to collect in the heart center. The heart center begins to be cleansed. It begins to be fed and nourished. Our compassion deepens, our love deepens. Our fear is dissolved. We experience more vulnerability and openness. We empathize more with others. Now imagine that that nectar sinks even deeper, collecting in our navel areas, our belly buttons. And imagine that our sense of self-agency deepens, our ability to set boundaries, to say no, to take the space that we need to be well. Imagine that all of that deepens and becomes clearer for us. That we have self-agency and power to make decisions, to take care of ourselves. Imagine that this nectar of medicine Buddha moves and sinks even deeper, coming into our genital area. Imagine that our connectivity to others deepens, our creativity deepens, our fear dissolves. We begin to understand how to use pleasure to get free, how to use pleasure to experience restoration, balance, how to use our sexualities to create, to nourish, to celebrate. Now imagine that that nectar begins to move even deeper to the base of our spine. And as that nectar collects in the base of our spines, imagining that we begin to experience a deeper sense of being held and cared for. We begin to feel stable and balanced. Now imagine that that nectar moves down out of our bodies and begins to collect in the earth under us. And imagine that the earth, this land, is purified of all the harm that has been caused, that has been perpetuated against it and inside of it and on top of it. Imagine that the land itself also begins to be blessed by the deep compassion, love, and care of Medicine Buddha. And as this nectar collects in the earth is freed from trauma. Now turning our attentions back to our bodies. Imagine that instantly you become Medicine Buddha. That you too are blue in color, in Dharma robe, sitting on a moon seat, on a lotus. That your body is both translucent, but also has weight and depth. You say to yourself, I am Medicine Buddha. I am Medicine Buddha. I am a source of deep healing, of balance, of stability. I have the ability to be free from suffering and harm. And I have the ability to bless all beings to be free from harm, suffering, and illness. Letting your mind rest within the open, spacious quality of your mind as Medicine Buddha. That all suffering, that all instability, that all fear, loneliness be liberated within the open, expansive mind of Medicine Buddha, which is also your mind, your essence. So as we maintain the pride of the deity, our belief that we are Medicine Buddha, we can turn our minds to the chanting of Medicine Buddha's mantra, which is on your screen in front of you. Teyata Bekinze, Maha Bekinze, Rasa Sumangate Soha. You may chant this with me, or just sit and listen quietly and rest within your mind as Medicine Buddha. Teyata Bekinze, Maha Bekinze, Rasa Sumangate Soha. Jeyata bekenze ma bekenze rasa sumungate soha. Jeyata bekenze ma bekenze rasa sumungate soha. Jeyata bekenze ma bekenze Rasa Sumangate 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 Soha. Rasa Sumangate Soha. Turning our attention up to the Medicine Buddha, still at the very top of our heads. Imagine that Medicine Buddha dissolves into white light, and that white light dissolves back into that pearl of white light. Imagine that that pearl of white light enters the top of our heads into our central channels and dissolves to the prana in the central channel. Imagine our bodies as Medicine Buddha begins to dissolve into white light. Our bodies dissolve into also a pearl of white light. This pearl of white light is the very essence of the nature of our mind. Imagine that that pearl of white light dissolves into emptiness itself. We rest our minds with an open awareness. So returning back to the space in front of you, I have a prayer from Shanti Deva. And if you're from the Great Pond Sangha, we have recited this many, 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 many times over the past 8 years or so. And so I would like for us to recite it together, just in the spaces that we are in. We're just going to recite it together 3 times. And as we recite this, I just want you to kind of reflect and kind of feel the energy of what this prayer is asking us to embody. So I'll begin. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine. And may I be the nurse for all the sick beings in the world, until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach unto the ends of space. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine. And may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world, until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach unto the ends of space. So we're going to chant this, we're going to recite this one more time. And this time as you recite the prayer, I want you to imagine that this is an oath, a vow that you're taking. That as you leave this teaching, this space tonight, this is the vow that you're taking to be in the world right now, to be of benefit to all beings, to be whatever beings need, but also to be what you need for yourself, first and foremost. To first be what I need for myself in order that I may be what others need me to be. So taking this as a vow, as an oath, as a commitment. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine. And may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world, until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach unto the ends of space. All right. That was fun time for the whole family. Okay, so if there's like, if anyone has a question or anything, um, I'm just gonna have just like 10 minutes. We're just over time a little bit, but just 10 minutes. Also remembering that it takes me 15 minutes to answer a question, so we'll just see how that works out. And you can ask a question in the box, in the chat box at the bottom of your screen. You can, I guess, direct that towards me or just everyone, or something.
Lama Rod.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Lama Rod, it's Terry. I just wanted to thank you very much for doing this.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
So, we have just a quick question. Any thoughts for how to work with tenderness but not get swept away by emotions in this time? That's an excellent question. And just briefly, I would say that we need a sense of spaciousness around the emotions. Um, and we get swept away in emotions because we contract around the emotions. We get really tight around the emotions and you get hooked onto the emotion and the emotion just kind of sweeps you and drags you all over the place. And this is a time of a lot of space that holds the tenderness. You know, we can't be super, super tender and raw with no space right now because we won't survive that. But to be super raw and open and empathic and compassionate and loving and giving that lots of space to be in, that's really where we're trying to practice in. That's the space we're practicing in right now. And just a few more other questions. Talk a little bit more about what is sacred feminine. How's it different from sacred masculine? Well, you know, the sacred feminine, sacred masculine, like that, when you talk about these ultimate energies, it's really just, we get into a lot of trouble when we're like labeling things, masculine and feminine, because we're attaching our relative understandings of the binary to this energy. But when we talk about the sacred feminine, you know, what we're talking about is this quality of energy that it's about, you know, as I see the sacred feminine or Shakti, I would say, I'll use the word Shakti as an expression of love, you know, but also the sacred masculine is also an expression of love as well. I think the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine are the same energies. It's the same expression ultimately. I think once we come into the relative, you know, we have kind of this binary dualistic mind that begins to influence the expression of these energies, and it turns into systems and expressions of violence that are not inherently what these energies ultimately are. So, is sharing these practices okay to adapt and do even though we are not lamas? Yes. So it's so, you know, this is, you know, very interesting because, you know, just I've been on pilgrimage for 2 weeks in India. And so we spent Lama Justin Van Boydash, whom some of you know, who published Modern Tantric Buddhism, which, get that book. That book is somewhere around here. I'll get it later. But, you know, we were going to all these pilgrimage sites, and these are ancient sites. Some of these sites are thousands of years old, where people have been making pilgrimage and praying. You know, these energies existed well before ritual and hierarchies and sadhanas and symbols existed, you know. And so when we're talking about, is it okay to connect to a certain practice? Well, no one owns Medicine Buddha. Like, Medicine Buddha isn't this copyrighted thing that no one has access to unless you go to a 3-year retreat, or if you're a Rinpoche or a sadhu or whomever you may be, It's not like that. We all have a deep access to these energies, to these ways of expressing ourselves in divine ways. And so you have to have the agency to meet the deity on your own terms, you know? So like in the book here, you know, you have the sadhana. So here's the sadhana right here, you know, you can see that. I mean, here's the sadhana, you know, and I'm trained in the sadhana. This is the exact sadhana that, you know, we chanted for years in monastery. But this has nothing to do with Medicine Buddha. These words, these symbols have nothing to do with the energy of Medicine Buddha. Medicine Buddha has everything to do with this deep sense of compassion and intention that we're trying to use to connect to Medicine Buddha, to that innate quality. That's what we're trying to focus on. You have to develop a personal relationship to the deity. You know, it sounds very evangelical, you know, but it's really the case. You have to have the agency to connect in a way that's meaningful and inspirational for you, you know. And a lot of people don't have the capacity to sit around and read these multi-page sadhanas and go through the whole practice. But a lot of people have the capacity to sit and to connect to the essence of Medicine Buddha, or to the essence of Tara, or to the essence of Chenrezig. You know, no one has to give you permission. You don't need a long or an empowerment. You don't need an empowerment for permission to touch into your own basic innate nature. An empowerment is simply an act of inspiration, an act of like giving you something that boosts your confidence, but it's not necessary. You know, an empowerment is something that Tibetan Buddhism invented for various reasons. So that sounds like blasphemy, you know, but most of you know me well enough to know that this is what I do the best. Any suggestions on how to relate to the coronavirus as a being? Yes. Relate to it as a being that you don't like, you know? In my practice, I didn't quite get the time to do this practice tonight, but I have a practice where you're actually sending love and compassion to disease and illness. And I think that's a really powerful practice. If you look at Lama Tsochen Alion's work, Feeding Your Demons, is very similar, you know, in which she uses the Chi practice to help people develop a sense of personification for the things that they like avoid, you know, and how to feed what she calls demons, how to feed those demons is very similar. It's almost the same thing, I think. So coronavirus is this being, this thing that like I don't want to deal with, but also deserves love and compassion and kindness. And if I can just express that to this virus, then in a way I am liberating myself from fear of it. And that's also liberating ourselves from fear of death as well. Because ultimately what we're always talking about is fear of death. You know? So I'm just going to take 1 or 2 more questions, and then we have to see. Tonight's practice felt very intense for my body. How to work with the energy that we generate into everyday action. How to work with the energy that we generate into everyday action. I think so. I think you're right. A lot of energy has been triggered because we were working up and down the central channel and working with chakras. So that's going to unlock a lot of stuff. And so one thing that I want you to do after the session, after we finish up, is just do a few simple movements and just like stretching, a little bit of walking, just a little bit, just like really like loosening up things. That can get a lot of energy moving out of the body. One practice that I love to do is sending energy down into the earth. So using the earth to ground the energy. But as you're moving through life, moving through your day, movement is really important to help us like keep this energy moving. So much builds up, hopelessness, fear, whatever it may be, it builds up as physical energy, and we have to release that energy through movement, through grounding that energy in the earth, through breath is also something that we can do as well. So as a healthcare worker, how do we stay grounded with daily anxiety and screenings, fear, etc., etc.? I'm trying. These are the practices that I just mentioned: movement, breath, taking breaks. In the practice, we rested our minds within this expression of emptiness. That's really important. That's something that I do every day. It's like when everything seems super heavy, that means I'm taking everything super seriously. And so I have to kind of drop everything and actually pierce into the nature of these things, which helps me to liberate myself from the weightiness of everything. Spaciousness is really important as well here. So how are you taking breaks? How are you creating boundaries right now? One thing that we can work with is, really deepening our work around self-care and self-preservation. We really, really, really need self-care right now. We really need to take refuge in things that can help restore a sense of balance and a sense of being in our bodies. And those have to be practices that are built into our day, And again, it's okay to adapt these practices in any way that you want. So as many of you know, my Sangha, Bhumi Sparsha, this is something that we're working with. And the Sangha is, how do we support people to take basic practices like this and figure out ways, personal sadhanas, I would call them, that are appropriate for you. So don't be afraid that, like, Medicine Buddha doesn't give a shit about, like, if you're chanting the mantra right. It's about intention. What is my intention? Intention is one of the most important aspects of practice. Bodhicitta is another important aspect. Why am I doing this? Do I want to benefit beings? If I want to benefit beings, then I am in line with the intention of the practice. When I want to hurt people, then I am outside of the intention of the practice. I struggle with the binary of action and action. Can you comment on action and inaction in this time? I struggle with binary of action and inaction. It can be a false binary, actually, because I think that inaction can be quite active. And I think partially what you're probably getting at is how we have to sometimes understand that inaction is the most skillful thing. That being patient, waiting, watching is something that can be as valuable as doing something too. So I think that's what you're trying to get at. Yeah. Sometimes the skillful thing is not to act, absolutely. Why is inhale down the spine and exhale up the spine? It seems contrary to the motion of inhale and exhale. It's like completely arbitrary. I think that just engaging in the breath that actually feels appropriate for you. Like I can engage, I can breathe down the spine and up the spine, and that works for me. Again, like, when we look at these practices, when we look at breath practices, when we look at subtle energy body practices, it's not one size fits all. So I would really encourage everyone to like kind of figure out the kinds of breaths and the kinds of instructions that really work for our bodies. So all our bodies are very different. And this is I really, really encourage everyone to experiment with all these practices. Sometimes, so many people come to me and they're like, oh, I can't maintain a practice, or I feel so uninspired, or this practice isn't interesting. I think we fall into that space because we have lost the ability to be creative and innovative. And I think that sometimes we find ourselves with teachers who actually don't know how to adjust practices to meet the individual needs of students. Like I never, this practice that I led tonight, I've never led before. Like I've never done a practice quite like this before. Every single time I sit down and practice is innovation and experimentation. And that's actually what keeps my practice strong. It keeps me active, active and active, but it keeps me interested. It keeps me inspired. It keeps me on the edge. It keeps me exploring different aspects of my body, of all my bodies, my energy body, my physical body, my mental body, my emotional body, all the bodies. Like that's what happens when we start developing these close relationships with the deities. We enter into this really creative space, and your practice isn't going to look like other people's practice. So yeah. Meet the deity where you're at is similar to my mental health training, where we are told to meet clients where they're exactly right. Like the deity is always where you're at. I think sometimes we get confused and say, oh, the deity's over there somewhere, so I have to go and find the deity. And I think that's a lot of trouble. And I think that's going to lead us down a path of just like, something else. But in my practice, I say, the deity is here. Like when I meet the deity, I'm actually just turning my attention back to myself. That's how I meet the deity. I meet the mother by realizing that I am the mother. Someone asked if there are resources for structured practice over the coming weeks. A structured practice for Medicine Buddha. I can write a practice for Medicine Buddha, if that's appropriate. Yeah, okay. So I'll work on that, and we can post on NDF, yeah. So we'll just post that on NDF. Okay. So awesome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. And just like as we end tonight, I just really encourage everyone to find their sense of refuge, their sense of something that holds them. You can't be in the world without refuge right now. I will go out on a limb and say it is impossible to be well and okay without having a deep sense of being held and cared for by something, be it teachers and gurus, be it deities, spirits, be it God, be it the mother, be it family or friends or, lovers or whomever. Like you have to be held. There has to be something or someone that you're falling back into to be cared for right now. Because this is just the beginning of something. Like this isn't like, we're not like in the middle of anything. I just feel like this is way more is coming down the road. way more is coming down the road because this is samsara. This is what samsara does. And I think that many of us are getting a lesson in how severe samsara can get. You know, for some of us, we got the lesson at other points in our life. But now I think a collective experience of the bullshit of samsara is expressing itself. And I think that more and more people are beginning to understand what they need in order to be well. And everyone in this teaching can be an agent of support for others around you. You know, just return your attention back to Medicine Buddha, to Tara, to whomever you're taking refuge in, you know, and allow those energies, those deities, the mother, God, whomever, to kind of flow through you in order to, you know, to be, to support the world, to support people around you. A lot of people are getting really dysregulated and out of balance and so many other things, and we can be agents of balance and stability if we just keep our attentions and our practice grounded. If you follow me on Instagram, every day I'm committing to posting a grounding practice. I started today, and I'll do one every day as much as I can. And I will be offering a new practice on Tara, a written practice on Tara, and we're going to get this Medicine Buddha practice out. So I'm producing as much as I can right now, but follow me on Instagram, you know, or, you know, Facebook or something like that, and get those practices every day for folks. Okay. So I just want to dedicate the merit to all beings, that all beings may be free from illness, sickness, that all beings may have everything that they absolutely need to be free and well. And may we all achieve enlightenment and freedom as quickly as possible. And that we all, you know, just like, I don't know, become Buddhas, because we are. So that's it. Okay. Everyone stay connected. You know how to reach me on my website. And I'll see you again next month for another teaching. We're on the schedule. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Be well. Take care of yourself.